Maybe they'll do one on nightmares for the Eurozone. What do you think? Well, to discuss that, Sally and I are joined by Bundeep Singh Rangar, the chairman of IndusView. Thank you very much for coming in. Let's start with this story then on what's been agreed in the Eurozone. Financial Times has it, many papers have it, 110 billion euros. Is this going to do the trick?
Well, I certainly hope so, because you know, what's interesting is this time the IMF is playing a big role here, even though they're a minority lender, and they've actually asked for structural changes, not just austerity measures, and they've asked Greece to cut defense spending. That's a pretty new one for a European country in the IMF. And I believe that kind of sends a signal to other countries that if they also come and are in need of a rescue package, they better be prepared not only to tighten their belts a lot, like Greece will, and cut 13% of their spending out here, but also be prepared for some very big structural changes and openness of the economy. In fact, when they looked at Greece, the IMF said it was one of the most non-transparent economies in Western Europe.
And again, looking in El País then again on this story, and Spain saying it is not the same as Greece. There's a wry smile on your face there.
Well, I mean, there's the whole kind of, you know, Portugal, Italy, or Ireland, Greece and Spain, can you clump them in the same category? And to some extent, I guess you can, because they all have current account deficits vis-a-vis GDP of sort of 9 to 13%. Their credit ratings and bond ratings have gone down. Greece has gone to junk status, double B, compared to where it was on an A+ just about over a year ago. But I believe that what Christian Lagarde, the French finance minister, said is that their funny statistics kind of applies perhaps a little bit more to Greece than to Spain. I think Spain's just suffered because, you know, generally the housing markets crashed and they've had a bad economy as opposed to bad numbers. I'm not quite sure if the same holds true for Italy. I think we just don't have enough visibility into Italy, and the media is fairly controlled by the top in the government to allow for a lot of visibility that you need.
I mean, I was in Spain last week, and it's interesting because I think it's the same and different in this comparison with Greece. It's different in the sense that their accumulated debt is only about 75%, I think, as opposed to 115% or whatever Greece is of GDP, so I suppose they've got less accumulated debt in Spain. But on the other hand, it's pretty clear from when I was wandering around Spain, the economy is flat on its back there.
Well, the unemployment rate's high and the prospects for growth are low, just the same way as I guess Italy and to some extent Ireland, so yeah.
Now we're looking at this merger between Continental Airlines and United as well. Would create the world's largest airline by passenger numbers. Do you think that would be a good thing?
So I guess, you know, two turkeys can't make an eagle. and the question is, are you joining number 3 and number 4 in the US to take on Delta because you want size? In the airline industry, size does matter to some degree because you can certainly get economies of scale. You can have a lot more sharing of your landing rights, which is a big thing for airlines, and they get the landing slots are shared. And by having a hub and spoke model of a more centralized hub, you can certainly reduce costs. Airlines are just so notorious when it comes to making a profit that, you know, I guess this is going to be the biggest challenge for them to create that number 1 spot. And take on Delta, which is the likely loser in this because they're the number 1 airline today.
They might be together, but they're still legacy carriers, and they're still going to carry these huge costs, which, of course, newer airlines just don't have.
Precisely, and it's a question of whether it's reinventing the model, which is more important, rather than just getting large economies of scale.
In some ways, actually doing the deal and merging is the easy part, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a corporate deal. It's the logistics and the integration of the two that's where the real challenge lies. And if you look at the new discount airlines, I mean, they don't work on a hub and spoke model, they work on a peer-to-peer model. And therefore, their costs are better, their turnaround times for aircraft are better, and they therefore are more profitable.
OK, so election week in Britain, I can't believe there's anyone who doesn't know that. The Daily Telegraph newspaper has this story saying the Conservatives rule out an alliance with the Liberal Democrats. David Cameron, the leader of the Conservatives, is confident of overall majority, but draws up plans to rule as a minority government. So we're still in possible hung parliament territory for the first time in, almost 40 years in Britain. But the Telegraph seems to suggest that there may not be a proper coalition with the Liberal Democrats if he doesn't win an overall majority of the Conservative leaders.
So what a difference television debates make, right? I mean, for the first time in 40 years, yes, you've got Liberal Democrats. For the first time in 40 years, you've had TV debates. And I think the role of the media is really interesting here because in the past, you had sort of advocacy journalism on the behalf of, say, the Sun newspaper, The Guardian. This time, it's much more of an open forum. And you've seen the Lib Dems come out and becoming, you know, 28, 29% of the popular electorate vis-a-vis 33, 34 for the Tories. if Cameron today said that he was not going to be going for a complete majority and would be open to coalition, it would lead to the Liberal Democrats getting more votes. So I think at this time, pre-election, he's got to send a very strong signal saying he'll stand alone and not seek a coalition, because that's just the wrong message to send out prior to the election.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. All right, thank you very much indeed. Actually, I'd like to analyse the dreams of David Cameron right now. That'd be quite interesting. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, that is just about it from us. Just a reminder of our main story, of course. The Eurozone leaders are selling their €110 billion bailout of Greece, trying to convince people it's a good thing. From Sally and me, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Find the stories that interest you at bbc.com/news.